Christopher Frank, on behalf of Tom and Diane Batchick. This is our third appearance in front of this body. At our last meeting, I'm not going to recap the first or second meetings due to the time, so I'm just going to skip right to kind of the summary of the things that we discussed last time. We talked extensively about the size of the building, the reductions that were made. I have some quantification of the reductions that were made in terms of calculation, in terms of vertical face, roof face, wall faces, and so forth. This particular slide illustrates the reductions in heights of the primary ridges, the secondary ridge, the fascias. You'll recall we initially had a full width attic above the second floor due to the fact that we can't have a basement due to the high water table and other issues associated with the lot. So we had a two-story house with a full roof and full attic on that, which we consequently changed. The two wings were dropped down to a single story with the second story under roof, and then we dispensed with fully 50% of the attic space. Ultimately, you can see the percentage reductions. This was included in the package that I gave to you guys that I submitted. So this is not a new slide. This is not a new slide either. These are the wall area and roof reductions kind of illustrated graphically. The top images are the original submission. The bottom images are the new submissions. Okay. You can see that the overall height bulk of the vertical wall faces is reduced. The areas of the roofs are reduced. Those are measured vertically, close to 18 to 23%, depending on which surface you're talking about. Again, these are the, let's see here. Okay, here we go. Rear and side elevations, similar illustration, graphics. The ridge height's been brought down significantly, and the height of the vertical wall face on the front elevation was reduced as well, which really reduced the perceived bulk of the structure from 298. In total, we reduced the vertical wall face area by 14.6%, or 1,026 square feet. We reduced the roof surface gross area by 807 square feet. That's a 15.4% reduction. Here are the renderings of the building. This is the front elevation looking north, the elevation looking east with the glass corner, the render from the south, and then from the west. And then just bringing into reminding you of the infill lot concept, which takes some of the leftover area on the building and proposes returning it to shotgun type lots to infill the streetscape along Cannon and Queen Streets.
The first time that you came, I was concerned at the size of the bulk of the building. So we discussed that at some length, and it was of great concern in terms of how it fitted in with the rest of the town. And I credit you for coming back with revisions which reduced it. But the more I have considered this, and having read with due diligence several times the submissions which I'm looking at now, the more concerned I am. I simply think that even the reductions still create a problem in terms of bulk, size, length, height. And I would be quite uncomfortable in voting to approve. That's my initial comment.
I have said before, I have concerns about the design looking much more suburban and less like fitting into Chestertown's character for the historic district.
It's appropriate for me to respond now, or to wait to hear everybody's
yes, you may
comments.
respond, absolutely.
With respect to your comments, sir, on the reduction on the size, we spent a significant amount of time and effort in terms of trying to.
I'm sorry, can everyone speak up? The people in the back haven't heard the word.
Yep, I'm sorry. So just responding to the comment, we have spent a significant amount of time working those elevations out reducing the ridge heights, reducing the fascias, as I've said. It is a large house. It is a large lot. This lot is very irregular, very unlike the lots on Queen Street and Cannon Street. This is not, this is viewed from 298. The frontage is on Route 298, which is a state highway. We feel that this is a different type of lot in the town, and that it is not inappropriate when you consider the history and some of the structures and some of the uses of this property that have been there. It's been irregular for 150 years. It has been kind of a black sheep in the neighborhood for 150 years. We don't think this is a black sheep. It could be much more intense. We could do much more with the lot by right, according to the zoning. Obviously, we have to come to you guys and see and get approval for whatever might happen there. But it is zoned for commercial development. It is zoned for intense types of uses, multifamily, all kinds of different things. We feel that this is really, frankly, a very good use of this lot, and it is less intensive than it could be. And yes, the house is larger than some of the adjacent structures, and I acknowledge that. But we have brought it down to residential proportions and sizes. And I do think that when you consider this house or this structure, when you think about Stepney Station, when you think about, it's escaping me, but the big tall yellow building that's next on the other side of the fire or the police station, those two structures are frankly how I look at the neighborhood of 298. Our concepts to try to use some of this lot as benefiting Queen Street and Cannon Street in an effort to, allow that rhythm of those two streets to be developed further instead of pockmarked. We think that's a great benefit to the town. We do think that, I'll stop. I've gone a little farther than I need to, so I'm sorry.
No, I also just want to say, and I've thought about this a lot, and I think that it's important for the audience to understand that we as commissioners spent a lot of time really thinking about scale and massing and rhythm, and we went back and forth amongst ourselves about what's appropriate given the unusual nature of this lot, because its location is different. And I would have an entirely different view of this if this house were proposed for Queen Street or Cannon Street, but it's not. And at a certain point, and I think that some of this is a function of change just being difficult. And some of it is a function of, you gotta look at this before you have mature plantings, before there's anything else there. And I think that we have a responsibility as a commission, not just to the historic district, but also to the broader community and to the economic health of the community. And I think that it's important that we all consider all of those things, or that people take into consideration that is also part of our charge. And I think that not having a sense of the effort that goes into and the consideration that goes into the work that we do here I think that's something that we really want to make sure people understand.
Similar in size to these lots on the other side, similar in size to what was the town of Chestertown's parking lot prior to taking the houses down that were there. We are also proposing to add another lot here adjacent to our driveway. These three lots here are existing. We've just shown gray rectangles for them as potential future development. They're owned by Chesapeake Development Corporation. So the idea here is that we believe we can fully landscape and really provide landscape buffers around the border of our property, which will soften and reduce the impact to the neighbors and so forth. We also feel that in working with the town to develop these lots further, there's one more economic opportunity, but there's also two, an opportunity to reestablish a streetscape that frankly has been missing for a significant amount of time. And there's a lot of opportunity here, and we really do feel that Queen Street and Cannon Street are their own worlds in terms of the architectural rhythm and scale. There is really not any rhythm to what we see here on Maryland 298. My calculations block out Stepney Station, of course, but then you have the small police station. And you have the two weird, tangent streets right there at the corner. We really are contending to try to frame this house to be viewed as primarily from Route 298 and to be as least impactful to the surrounding areas as possible.
I'm Nancy McGuire. I live at 103 South Mill Street within the Historic District in a frame early 18th century dwelling. I'm allotted only 3 minutes to speak. I wish to give anything that's remaining to Tom Kaminsky so he can complete his testimony. I'm not here to criticize, but to inspire and emphasize the importance of the Historic District Commission, an entity more important than any other, in the exclamation point. That includes the town council, the mayor, and anyone. I often said it was the most difficult job I've ever had relative to Chestertown. HDC preserves what has made us what we are today. You protect the identity of Chestertown and most of all the sense of place. You protect the very value why generations have called this home. You protect the reason why visitors visit and new residents migrate here. It is where one would rather be. Why? Because we care about the integrity of our community of buildings, leading to a strong and deep sense of place.
This is a lovely home. And obviously you all are really talented architects. It just doesn't belong in our neighborhood. So there will be tremendous acrimony in the community. They will be building a home where many people in the community are very unhappy. And I don't think it's really right for the HDC or anybody to have them come into a community with that much disdain and acrimony. It's not good for them, it's not good for the community.
You want to stand?
Yeah, sure. My personal, I grew up in Chester. I'm 48 years old. I've been here my whole life. I've seen a lot of changes in Chestertown. This is different. It's new. It's not an old structure. It's not a historic structure. The Sereno Center building, pretty new, modern wall of glass. The Sultana addition is pretty modern wall of glass. Scale, if you go down Water Street, houses are pretty close together, and then there's wide hall with a broad yard and pretty big scale. It'd be nice to see people treat each other with a little more civility. If you don't approve of the design, that's okay. We're all friends here. We should be. But I just want to give my approval that there's some tweaks that could be made. Some community feedback is nice. But to reject it simply because it's modern or because it's large, there's too much precedent set, I think, historically, that's already been done.
In addition to Kit's comments about everything to be considered, I would like to mention merely that there's not just precedent, but regulations that affect this through the National Park Service and their historic preservation tax incentives address this absolutely with a 2-page monograph on new construction within the boundaries of historic districts. And essentially, I won't repeat anything that's been said, but it said, historic landscapes and significant watersheds and viewsheds should be preserved. And as with any additions, the missing size, scale, and architectural features must be compatible with those of the surrounding buildings when visible and in close proximity. Good to know. In close proximity, the new construction must not be subordinate. And these are not just requests, these are guidelines.
I'm willing to bet that if I were to say to everyone here, we live in a special place, that probably everybody would agree to that. My concern and the reason that I'm here is that I do think we live in a special place, and I think it's a very fragile thing. In 26 years of having a business downtown, it is clear to me that people come here because they feel it's a special place. There are lots of small towns out there that have businesses, many businesses as well as we have. And the truth is, they're not as successful as we are. People are not as attached to them as we are. Part of the problem that I have with the structure is that I do think it's out of character. I worry about the erasure of part of the African American community, which I think that property will, it'll add to that.